Hi guys, Table here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mutsuki. It's a tier 4 Japanese destroyer. We got a domination mode game match on the map Trident. Mutsuki is probably one of the least liked ships in the game, and that's due to the fact that it has two turrets with one gun each, and they actually have somewhat limited firing angles, as I'll try and point out when I notice it. But what does that mean? It means you can't really win a gun duel with any other ship in the game. So you need to play it as purely as a torpedo boat as you can. I tend to fire the guns on the Japanese destroyers maybe a little bit more than I should, but definitely more than I would say most players do. I tend to find them more serviceable than a lot of people think, but you can make the argument I use them too often, and I would certainly listen to that argument. But on this one, you want to use the guns only either if necessary or if you are 100% sure you're not going to get detected. So torpedoes are the name of the game, and we're going to look for opportunities here. We do have the Omaha. Now these lower tier games, the lower the tier, the more straight of a line that players tend to sail in. I don't find that opening torpedo salvos on cruisers usually hit, just because they're bound to turn sooner or later once either someone starts shooting at them or they just decide it's time to turn. Now you can see right there, we have two circles on the target, but only one of them is only one gun fired. So that front gun does have limited firing angles. And right off the bat, I'm using the guns, and you're probably saying, "What the heck?" And by the way, we were able to clip that destroyer, even though those torpedoes were for the Omaha, and they would have missed the Omaha. That, if you watch the destroyer, he did turn around and started coming back. So we did get lucky with those salvo. But because I'm behind the smoke and I'm looking on the map and I know no one can spot me if I'm firing, that's why I'm using those guns. And you'll notice they're not doing a lot of damage, but we're actually able to secure a second kill with them. So this is a situation where you can use them. I'm just taking some shots at this Fuso because why not? But they're not going to be doing much damage at all. So I'm basically just waiting for my torpedoes to reload at this point. But now that the torpedoes are back up, we can kind of proceed to the next play. Now with destroyers, there's kind of two ends of the spectrum on what you can be doing. You can either play with your team and support your team, or you can kind of go off on your own and conduct like solo operation excursions. For me, I find the Japanese destroyers are the best for going off on their own, just due to the fact that they tend to have the best detection or concealment at the tier. And a destroyer that relies heavily on the guns, like take for instance USN Destroyer, where a lot of your damage is going to be coming from popping a smoke and firing at the enemy. Well, if you're the only one who can spot a ship due to the fact that you're off on your own, as soon as you pop that smoke, you're not going to be able to see him, which basically eliminates your strongest play. So USN Destroyers, in my mind, are much more suited to kind of play with the rest of the fleet, or at least a division of the fleet. And Japanese destroyers, because they're not planning on shooting, they're planning on torpedoing, and using their concealment to get in a position. Those are the type of ships that can kind of go off on their own and do their own thing. Now, when you do decide to go off on your own, you need to be basically watching the map about 80-90% of the time. Beautiful sunset, ignore it. But what's going on? I'm accounting for all the ships on the map. We got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got all the ships currently spotted on the enemy team. The one I'm particularly concerned about is the enemy destroyer. That's the one that's most likely to pop up unexpectedly and detect me, which obviously is a major problem for the ship. Now we do have planes in the air here. That's also a major problem. This is probably a bit of a mistake. I went on the left side of the island trying to get as close as I can to him, but it kind of forces me to be briefly detected. That's a major problem for two reasons. Number one, he could kill me if he had his guns loaded and was inclined to shoot destroyers. I think he had just recently shot though. But two, it alerts him to my presence, which is nullifying my attack from the get-go. Players that notice destroyers are going to assume there's torpedoes in the water. Players that notice destroyers that are sailing away from them should at least really suspect that torpedoes are in the water, because the destroyer, in their mind, they're trying to close in, launch torps, and then get out. So a player that has, a baseline level of experience is going to notice that, and like he did, he stopped, he hit the brakes, slowed down, he turned away a little bit, and very easily dodged those torpedoes. So that attack was essentially nullified by the time it had commenced. And again, we're closing on this Fuso now. You can take stock of what he's doing. He's shooting, he's receiving incoming fires, so you can assume he's aimed down the sights, and there's a better chance that he's not really paying as close attention to you as he should be. And we do get another strike in the water, but again, I'm detected, so it diminishes the effectiveness when you're detected. But again, you can see he's continuing to fire. That means he's aiming. He's not noticing the torps until they're starting to beep on his screen now. And at this point, they're too late, and we are able to get him. But with these Japanese destroyers, you do want to ideally remain completely undetected. It's really best if you're not detected at all. Then your icon isn't on the map. Like, even suppose hypothetically, some player is tied up dealing with another ship, but if he glances at the map and notices a grayed out destroyer icon close to him that wasn't there previously, that's another visual clue that something's up. So anytime you're playing against destroyers and they're closing in within their torpedo range, assume torpedoes are in the water and immediately slow down, turn, do whatever you can, because most players are going to fire torpedoes on or about the aim indicator. So if you can get your ship's course away from that, you're greatly increasing your odds of surviving that encounter. Now at this point, the game's going really well. We're up by a couple ships. They're down to 3. We're up a capture point. So strategically, all we really have to do is protect these 2 capture points, and it should be an easy win. But even if they're able to flip one, I mean, at this point in the game, the score would be hard for them to catch us. Now, if they kill some ships, that adds points. If they flip a capture point, that slows down your momentum and actually builds it in their favor. So you don't want to sit back too much. Now here we're approaching a Fuso. I'm inclined to shoot battleships. Destroyers are out there to kill battleships. That's where their value lies. And battleships are far easier to torpedo than cruisers. But because this Königsberg is closing in on me, and he's definitely a much greater threat to me as a destroyer because his guns are more accurate and faster firing than the Fuso, I decided to launch the torps towards him. If they kill him, great, but just once he notices the torps, he's likely to turn away from me and try and get out of there. So they have both an offensive effect and a deterrent effect as well. These planes are a major problem. The Japanese destroyers have really poor AA guns, so it's very hard for you to deal with planes other than getting away from them. But because this Königsberg has spotted me, I need to pop the smoke immediately. This is a mistake. I don't frankly know what I was thinking about. This is sloppy play. Now, as an added bonus, we were able to get the Fuso just because he happened to be sailing along kind of the same trajectory as the Königsberg when he launched those torps. So that was a bit lucky, and that's the ship I would have preferred to have killed anyways. But again, very late smoke here. That I took some severe damage that didn't need to be taken. So just a little bit of a lazy play there. We could definitely switch to AP rounds at this point when he's that broadside. Again, the guns aren't that effective on the ship, but I believe you can still do some damage with the AP rounds. So a couple things to tighten up right there at the end, but all in all, that's not too bad. Now we do have one more ship left, and at the time I shot this, I do have the radio location thing. You can see those white kind of rainbow-shaped lines on the screen. That's telling me the location of the closest ship. I keep going back and forth on these Japanese builds between this and the other alternative is cut down on the torpedo reload. Japanese destroyers heavily focused on torpedoes, so cutting down on the reload is extremely valuable, but in certain situations this is fine. I like the radio location more on gunboat type destroyers that are going to be trying to hunt enemy destroyers more actively, just because that kind of gives you an edge in locating them. And we're trying to get the 6th kill, but the friendly guy does it for us. So all in all, not a bad game there. I hope you did enjoy the look at the Mutsuki. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. A lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. And we'll see you guys all later. Alright, peace.